most of the things I tried to flip on its head. You know, in the original Little Mermaid, the mermaid wants to go onto the land, whereas Luce wants to go to sea. I just took everything and tried to invert it and also give it more of a feminist take.
Welcome to More Magic, a fantasy book podcast. I'm your host, Demi Utley.
And I'm your co-host, Marianne Boules.
We have our tea, our cozy blankets, and a lot of opinions. But be warned, today's episode has spoilers, so listen at your own risk. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the More Magic Book Club podcast. Today is another book club episode, and we are discussing Upon a Starlit Tide by Kell Woods. And today we are actually joined by Kell Woods herself. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining. So just to say nice things about you for a little bit. So for everyone who is not familiar with Kell Woods, Kell is the author of 2 novels. Your debut, After the Forest, I saw was a Sunday Times bestseller and released, was it last year or the year before that?
It was the end of 2023. So
okay. Yeah. So coming on in 2 years then right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, your most recent book, which we're talking about today, Upon a Starlit Tide, merges Cinderella and the Little Mermaid into something that, as I already told you, made me cry. I believe also made Marianne cry, which we'll talk about more in a second. And Upon a Starlit Tide received a starred review from Publishers Weekly. I saw Apple Books named it one of the best books and audiobooks of 2025 so far, I believe, when it released earlier this year.
Yeah.
And it's just such a fun book set in France. And so I just want to give that little context for everyone, because you have written multiple books. And if anyone hasn't read your first one and liked this one, it's definitely a reason to go check that out, which I know I'm definitely going to, because that one was Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, that one's Hansel and Gretel in Germany in the 17th century. Yeah.
I mean, I'll definitely be reading that now that I've read Upon a Starlit Tide. It's definitely my next read.
Thank you. I don't know. I actually bought some of the copies because After the Forest got picked up in a couple of book boxes. And so there are some really beautiful special editions floating around. So if you're into that kind of thing,
oh my gosh.
That's the Owl Crate one, which is just stunning. It has all it's just beautiful. And then Illumicrate also picked it up, and they did it look at the sprayed edges.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's so pretty.
They have it's like the book. There's a book in the book, and so they've made it to be like the book. So yeah, there's a couple of, if you're interested, I don't know, you might want a fancy pants one. Some people like them. And also Owl Crate also did Upon a Starlit Tide, which I don't know if you saw that as well. It's got a reversible.
Oh wow, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I love that picture.
Isn't it lovely? I love it too. And then there's that one of the we can do spoilers in this podcast.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
That's right. So just beautiful. And they did the reversible jacket, which is really pretty too. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that too.
That's so pretty.
Book people like to see that stuff.
For our YouTube listeners, you have access, but for our podcast listeners, we'll put some pictures and links to that book so that they could see the pictures for themselves and see how intricate the pages are and how beautiful and detailed the paintings are.
Yeah, I'll include the link to those editions as well. Yeah, and so for the book, to dive into the book discussion, because I'm so excited to talk about this. So first, I just want to say I loved Upon a Starlit Tide. It was exactly what I needed right now. And before we dive into the world of the magic, I just want to say that there were I think 3 moments that really hit me, and the like three big moments that made me cry, just because like I feel like those were like the most powerful. So I wanted to kind of start with that. I'm curious, Marianne, which ones hit you?
I wonder if they're the same three. I wonder if they're the same.
Oh,
three.
really?
Oh man, yeah. This book, so just for context, I listened to the audio. And by the way, I loved the voice actress. I don't know who she is, but she did such a good job. But there were parts that made my heart ache, but in a good way, like Demi said. Just there's so much to unpack here. So let's do it. I can't wait anymore.
Yeah, I feel like the first moment that hit me, because it was kind of I liked how the first half was almost like the Cinderella part, and then it was the Little Mermaid part. And I feel like it did like a really great job of like building the tension, because I knew there were mermaids. So I was waiting. I was like, when is this going to happen? Who is a mermaid? And then by the time that it like got there and she was transformed, that was one of my favorite scenes. That didn't make me cry. I was just like, oh, I feel like it just like took off, and I literally could not put it down. But yeah, the moment where after in the cave where Samuel was recovering, and there was just a line where he was like, they killed Bones, and then he cries and she just like holds him. That just like, I feel like that moment, which because it was going so fast when they were doing all this stuff on the ship, and it didn't hit me emotionally until that moment when he kind of broke down. And I was like, oh my God, that part like really got me. It was so, and just like the line there, I feel like that was really powerful. And then what were the other ones? The flashback with her mom, and where she's seeing that in the mirror. And when he shot her, I had to stop. I was just like, I could not. And I was just, yeah, it was so, that
Betrayal.
was so, I know. Yeah. And I was like, first, who would shoot a mermaid anyway? And then the fact that it was like this man who she, loved like a father, who like she thought cared about her. And that was like, so the way you used the flashback there was just so, it was really, really good. And then of course at the end, when they like end up together, it was just like, oh, it was so nice. So yeah, Marianne, what were the ones that stood out to you?
For me, it was I don't want to get too ahead, but for me, I actually really loved Charlotte as a character. And her story when she ran away, I found that to be a very powerful scene. It completely reoriented everything I thought about the book. So similar to Demi, I knew that there were mermaids, so I thought maybe these are like modern mermaids where it's not one tail, but she has more like diver slippers because her feet are kind of different. So I was like, maybe that's what it is. And I was like waiting for it. I wasn't sure. And I thought the big bads was going to be the evil stepmom and the evil stepsisters. So that's what
I did too. Yeah.
So complete when Charlotte came into herself, it just became a complete reorientation of everything I thought I knew about this book. And then the conversation between her and her father killed me because I wanted to believe him. And I did believe him, actually, when he said, I loved you. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. It wasn't until she pointed out the really obvious truth, which is that he thinks he loves her, but real love liberates. It doesn't enslave. So he can't love her, even if he truly believes that. So it was just so... It just hurt my feelings. Cal, how could you do this?
Look, I've actually got goosebumps. Like I even just listening to you talk about that, because like for one, I feel it too, obviously, like that emotional side of it, but it's just really lovely to hear that what I felt, you guys felt. Thank you. It's so lovely. And I think he did, for me, he did truly believe he loved her. And that's what was awful about that.
Yeah.
That's what was the worst thing, is that he did. He really did think, and sad, just sad.
Like he doesn't know what love is. And something that I thought you put in that was so interesting was earlier he was like, I want my daughters to be happy. And so I was like, he's the good father. Like he's going to let Charlotte marry who she wants, and he's going to let Luce marry who she wants. But as soon as Charlotte did something against him, he was enraged. So I think he just liked being the good guy to Cartien's bad guy. But it wasn't like, right?
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest clues that I left, that when I think about how I approached writing Jean-Baptiste, was when Luce got busted sneaking out, and Gracienne was like, "You're not going to the ball." And they had that argument, and the girls were listening at the door and they could hear them arguing about it. And that was the scene that I really hoped made you think he was a good person, because it was all about, I won't put Luce through anything after what she's been through. I just want her to be happy. And that's where you think, oh, he's a good guy. And then it's all about himself. He just wants her to be happy for himself.
So he could get kisses.
Yeah, he could get all of the good things. Yeah. So I deliberately worked to make him seem like a good person. And because, like both of you, most readers are going into the book thinking that it's the sisters and the mother that are going to be the problems. So it was a really fun little twist on expectation, which I tried to do with a lot of things in this book. Like most of the things I tried to flip on its head. You know, in the original Little Mermaid, the mermaid wants to go onto the land, whereas Luce wants to go to sea. I just took everything and tried to invert it and also give it more of a feminist take, which was where the sort of emancipation and the freedom and the right to choose, which women in that century and, you know, other centuries just wouldn't have had. There wouldn't have been that freedom and that choice. So leading into that, because it was the age of sail, and this is where ships were getting really big and really fast and really powerful. And this is when all the exploring was happening and maps and technology and navigation was expanding. And I just find it interesting that that was all very male. They could go and do all of these things, but not the women. And so that was something that I really leaned into. And I think it just worked really well for her father, being the kind of, you know, and giving her the ship and talking about maps and letting her be involved in the business. And he had no intention of letting her go anywhere. Yeah, it's quite the betrayal. Yeah.
I totally fell for it too. So when he did that conversation, I was like, we must protect John Baptiste at all costs. Like, he is the perfect father. And then the clue, the very, very, very first clue, I'm like, oh no. I had a feeling that he knew she was a mermaid, but it's like he saw like some kind of massacre or something. Like, I thought he knew who she was, but the first clue was when Charlotte was like, I was about to try to do the accent that voice actress does. I shouldn't attempt that. But she's like, "Father, what do you mean you have years and years? You act like she's not going to get married." That was the first clue. I'm like, oh my God, what does he mean years and years? She is a beautiful girl. She is smart. She's a catch. What do you mean years and years? So that was the first clue. I was like, oh no, John Baptiste, have you led me astray?
Have you betrayed me too?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, I mean, just thinking about like flipping things to kind of talk about the magic in the world a little bit, because she's the mermaid and she rescues Morgan in the very first scene, which is like, to me, it was almost like the opposite of in The Little Mermaid, where I don't even remember his name. Is it Eric in The Little Mermaid?
In the Disney movie, it was Eric. I don't think he had a name in the original fairy tale. None of them had names. They were just...
That's interesting. I feel like there's something there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. But then Morgan, I was like, oh, he's gonna be, you know, Prince Charming, the love, and you kind of position that. And then of course he's very much not that. So I really like that. But I was curious with the world itself. The storm stone, where did you come up with that? That played a pretty pivotal role, or a big role in the book. And from the very beginning, like, it, you know, it's mentioned and it kind of builds. And then by the end, you're like, oh, this is really important.
So I always start with the history, the fairy tales, and then picking the century and the location. And then I go right into the history. And then when I've got sort of that in my head, that's when I start to play with folklore, the superstition, and then create the magic based on, as much as possible, on what people believed at that time and what was known. So I try not to make too much stuff up. Like a lot of the magical things in this book and in After the Forest came from what people really believed happened at that time in history, which is such a rich source of ideas, because there's some really amazing sort of folklore and superstition. So Brittany has this amazing folklore and also this amazing coastline that's filled with stories and superstition and magic. So the Stormstone, funnily enough, was the last piece of the puzzle. So I've probably done a couple of drafts of this book, and I was in edits, and then there was this one piece that was just missing that needed to lock everything together. And I came upon that because I was looking at the history of the coastline and the buildings and things, like practical things. And all of the buildings in St. Malo or San Malo are made of granite that is quarried locally, either on the coastlines, like in the quarries along the coast, or out at the Chaucy Islands. I'm probably saying that wrong, but there are these islands out in the Channel that were where they used to get all of the granite from. And then I was reading about how there were also these like fairies and swell fairies and witches and all of this magical sort of folk along the coastline as well. And I was thinking, well, if they're mining stone, if they're quarrying stone from these shores and there's magical folk, why wouldn't the magical essence of these people sort of leach into the stone and we'd end up with magic stone? That's interesting. And then kept thinking about that, and then realised as well that the ships had pieces of granite in the hold as ballast. So there were ships carrying around this granite too. So I was looking right into the history of shipbuilding and sailing and all of that. So all of that really dry historical stuff ended up sort of launching and connecting. And I was like, okay, so you could have magic stones in the ships, but also the whole walls of the city could be made from it. And it's all connected to the magical folk, to the fairy folk, to the original sort of old, ancient, magical inhabitants of Brittany. And then from there, I just was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be magic stone. That's going to work. And then, yeah, it just kind of grew from there. And when I finally had that idea, I realised it pulled the whole book together. And then I had to go and rewrite the book and put it all in. So people are really shocked when I say that, because they're like, oh, it just felt like it was always part of the book. I was like, oh, it really wasn't. Like originally, I wanted Samuel and Luce to be searching for something in the water. And it wasn't Stormstone until that very last edit, because originally I had that they were looking for a lost city. You know how they do mention the lost city of Keris, I think is also called. And I was really interested in that drowned city idea. It didn't really need to be in the book, and I ended up sort of pulling it back and just using it sparingly. But originally that was the way that I got them into the water together, searching for something. But the Stormstone and making him a smuggler was just so much better. And as soon as that, I realised, oh, it can be an illegal trade, and that he's going to be this hot smuggler diving for Stormstone. She can sense it. Oh my God. And so that's when the whole book just clicked into place in every way. So yeah, the Stormstone is really important, and so funny that it came to me really late in the picture. Really annoying.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was so creative, because in the beginning I was like, I think it's mentioned in the first chapter or one of the earlier chapters, and I was like, okay, what's happening here? And then it becomes more and more and more, and they're looking for it. And yeah, I love that he was the smuggler. And I feel like it adds kind of to what we were talking about before with John Baptiste, and like it makes it so emotional, because it's like she is making the stone more powerful for him and for the whole city. And yeah, it was a really key element. That's so interesting.
I know. And it just goes to show you how rubbish the first draft must have been, because it didn't have that hanging it together.
Yeah. Well, the other question I want to ask you about the magic. So, because we have the, obviously mermaids, or they're called sea maids in this, and then the sea crone, all the other fae creatures. Were all of those inspired by this France folklore then? Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's so...
Yeah. I don't think I made up much at all. There are definitely little, what are they called? The little corrigans on the shore that you see in the beginning. They're part of the folklore, of the Breton folklore. The little Lutine, who's in the garden and chats to Luce, she's part of the folklore. Yeah, all of it. Anything I've mentioned in there to do with even the dead sailors rising and searching for their captain, that's all part of the that kind of folklore as well. I also did a lot of looking into the sea folklore because, you know, sailing is one of the most superstitious trades that you will ever see. There is so much superstition and pretty much everything, even the girls not being able to touch their hair after sunset, all of that, that's all legitimate. That's what people believed in England as well, in all sorts of different places. But all of that superstition was taken straight from history. History is so fascinating, and sometimes it's just weirder than anything you could make up.
I love that. I'm like a sucker for like folklore and superstition. Fun.
What's lovely is that the people in that time truly believed in these, like we call them superstitions now, but back then, before science and before the Age of Enlightenment and before, they believed in all of this stuff. And so that's great for me as a writer, because it's just giving you all this magic that you can feed in without it even really being magic. It's what people believed. Oh, yeah, I called them sea maids because mer is French. So technically they're speaking French. So it felt weird to have a French word thrown in when they're already speaking French.
So that is a small detail, but I love that because I know as a reader, like I noticed that, like if they say something in the same language. So yeah, great catch. That's great.
Yeah. I was really conscious of making it feel French and feeding in, like they do say there are French things sort of fed throughout the book, but I was really careful with the words that I chose for everything. And I really like this. I love the sound of sea maid. I just think it sounds...
it sounds magical.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And it also sounds like we all know the word mermaid. And I think sea maid just is a little bit fresher. Like it just, I don't know. I just really liked it. So the word sea is really beautiful. I use that as much as I can. It's more beautiful and archaic and whimsical sounding than even ocean. Like all of the word choices in the book I agonized over because I wanted it to have that really magical, really, I guess, beautiful. I wanted it to be really sumptuous, and I wanted it to have all of that magic and richness. And so that all comes down to word choice in the end. We're just mixing up words, aren't we, and throwing them onto a page. And so those words all have power in the way that you arrange them. So sea maid was a deliberate choice. But I shamelessly mind Britain folklore. And I do have a bit of French ancestry and Celtic ancestry and Southern, that kind of area. So I didn't feel too guilty about doing that. I felt like, I'm Celtic. I can do this. I can go in and just tweak things a little bit and borrow.
Your great-great-grandmother approves. So.
Yes. My grandmother was a French teacher. So she loved French culture. So she's not with us anymore, but she would have been incredible. Oh, she would have loved this book.
It felt so French because even the scenes where they're eating, the way you described the food, and I loved that it was always like oysters and mussels and like it felt. We live an hour and a half from the beach, and I'm like, why am I not on the beach right now? Like, I need to be at the beach. And it was also the beach in France if I could choose, but I loved those descriptions and the fabric, like the way you described the different gowns, and I feel like it was very immersive and what's the word you use? Sumptuous? Yeah, I think
sumptuous. Because it's the 18th century. Yeah, I mean, the 18th century we're in the peak here before the French Revolution. This is the time when the rich were so rich and living in such luxury and splendor. So that part of it was really fun. And I felt that just fitted in so well with Cinderella and the glass slipper and the ball and that whole mood of that side of things. So I really leaned into that. Did a lot of research on the different fabrics, even the color, the Pompadour rose. That was the most fashionable color because Madame de la Pompadour was the king's mistress at that time, and she was the height of fashion and beauty. So I tried to bring in as much folklore, historical little detail, all of that, so that you would believe in the world. And when I start making people turn into sea maids, you would just go, yeah, totally. I'll go there.
Well, the description when she becomes the sea maid, she's like disgusted by it and kind of horrified and vomits. And in my mind, I'm like, this is exciting. Don't you want to be like, you can be free? And so, but it was so different from what I was expecting her reaction to be. And yeah, because she wanted to be a part of the sea. So, but I mean, of course, if you woke up and then you're like half fish, I mean, I probably would freak out if
It
that
would be
actually happened to me.
Yeah, she would vomit.
I mean, and I don't know if she vomited out of disgust or if it was just her body going through the physical change. That's kind of more what I was thinking when she did that. I'm really interested in taking fairy tales and fleshing them out and making them feel real. Like, what would happen if you actually did suddenly turn into a mermaid? You know how fairy tales are so simple and short, and it'll be like, and she turned into a bird and they all lived happily ever after. And there's no detail. Like, what would that actually feel like to turn into a bird? And I really looked into this in After the Forest as well, because there are characters who turn into animals in that book. So I'm really interested in the shapeshifter folklore, and I guess mermaids are shapeshifters. And yeah, I was more thinking, if your body was physically changing, whether by choice or by something out of your control, all of your internal organs are going to be rearranged, and it can't feel great. Like, it couldn't, you know how I was really fascinated in how the fairy tales make it seem so simple. Oh, and he turned back he was not a bear anymore. He turned back into a man and they were married. Yeah, but what would that feel like to turn from an animal into a human? And so I'm always trying to make it feel as real as possible. And yeah, there's vomiting and there's blood and there's, it's not very pretty. Yeah. But I kind of like turning the fairy tale inside out. So you see that kind of red underbelly, that kind of the gore and the emotional impact that this stuff would have on you. So that's sort of where I was going with that. But I love that scene,
Yeah.
I was so happy with that scene.
I mean, it makes sense to me because, I guess you're right. Like, if you were to truly think about it, there's an element of body horror in shapeshifting, especially if it's the first time ever and you weren't expecting it. I would completely disassociate. Like, even though I wanted freedom my whole life, if all of a sudden I jumped into the ocean like I have the last 10,000 times, and now I've gone from 2 legs to 1 leg, like I would I would probably enter like a state of psychosis for a little bit. And then once I accepted like, oh, this is a thing that happens to me when I jump into the ocean and I have this silk, then I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, it takes time to, this is kind of weird, but as right now I'm currently pregnant. And I feel like,
congratulations.
Thank you. But I feel like that's pregnancy a little bit. Like, there's a body horror element to like, oh my God, the human is going to come out of me. And it takes time. I feel like the 9 months of pregnancy is taking time to accept that fact.
Yes, that I have to go through labor. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I feel like it's kind of similar.
It is. And I probably leaned into all of that. I weirdly, and I haven't told anybody this, but it's probably really pertinent to this now that I think about it. I've never thought about this before, but I'm claustrophobic, and I have a thing as well about my legs being pinned.
Totally.
Like, I don't know.
I get what you mean.
Common.
Yeah.
I do not like if my husband and I are on the watching a movie and he puts his legs on top of mine and I can't move my legs, I almost panic. It's really strange, and I've always been like this. So for me, that's that idea of her falling into the water. And also I thought, well, it's not like she would just magically know how to swim with a different body.
That's right.
Which is also something that would happen in a fairy tale or in a Disney version. She would just know how to swim, but I don't think you would. I think it would take time to get used to that shape. So for me, that the horror of that was falling in the water and then not being able to get to the surface. So I kind of hope that panic came through, because I was imagine going into the water with your legs tied together. And I think she thought that the coat was tangled up for a bit. She was also quite confused.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. I haven't read it or worked on it for a while, but I wanted that sense of panic, because normally she's a really strong swimmer. So, imagine, like, it's a horrible feeling to me to have to be in the water with your legs tied together. And then I guess the shock of that, as well as her whole digestive system suddenly being changed because there's this tail there. And also fish tails are kind of gross. Like, imagine having scales. Like, it would be so shocking.
Yeah, they are gross. They're slimy and like they feel funny, and
it's so shocking, honestly. So that's sort of how I approached that scene.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so funny. Well, I really appreciated in that scene, because she's obviously horrified because she's going through that. But then Samuel's just like, well, you can't be that surprised. Like, I'm not surprised that you're a sea maid. And like, essentially is like, I love you the way you are. Like, the way he reacted was so gentle and supportive. And he did, like, I actually, because I had a story graph where you can go and comment like at different percentages. So my book club does that. And so, you could see where everyone's reacting. And I added a comment it was at that point, and then also when they get to the cave where they're going to see his family. And he's like, do you want to swim? Like, are you interested? And he's like kind of offering that, like, hey, maybe you should explore sport. And I thought that was such a supportive way for him to react to this very, just a horrifying thing like that was happening to her, where she was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't like this, And he was so just patient. And I think that really added to the relationship and to the dynamic between them.
Yeah. No, I thought about him very much in that scene too. I think he swears. I think in the beginning he's really shocked, and there was a bit of comedy. There's comedy in that scene.
Yeah.
His reaction. Like, I think he says, what does he say?
Like, is this the first time? Like, do you promise this is the first time it's happened?
Yeah. Like, and then just blatant, like, I think the first thing he does is just swear profusely.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Which is so him. And then underneath all that, he's actually really got a really high emotional intelligence, right? So straight away, just the way he handles it is so beautiful. I love him.
He's the perfect man. I loved him so much. I wanted him to be happy. And I hated there was an element of the fact that the powerful people do evil things, and he's such a good person, and he's relegated to this life of like putting his life on the line in an illegal trade to feed his mom and his siblings, and it's just so unfair. But and then also again at the very end, he has to wait 6 years for his love. Like, he like, it's like, good. Why must the good suffer? But he got his happy ending, and that is so, like, Morgan doesn't get, he does, and that is just so nice. So, and also Gabriel too. I loved Gabriel. Like, I loved him. He also, like,
I loved him too.
Yeah, like, these two guys, they get the girls get the guys. I felt bad for Veronique. I almost felt like she was a tragic character, because I felt so bad for her, but for her naivety, and I feel like Luce was also naive too. Like, she like didn't really have a concept of the dangers unprotected women go through in like that in life, like, and Samuel would always like hesitate to tell her, and she's like, what could possibly go wrong? And me as the reader, I'm like, oh, Luce, oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah. So much. And that's, she was so protected and cloistered within the wealth, and because the town is walled, and the Maluniere, the grounds are walled, and so she was so protected. That's always a really hard thing to approach when you're writing too, because you need the characters to be a little bit crap in the beginning and a little bit naive, or at least in some way not where you want them to be by the end. And for her, it had to be that she was sort of cloistered and trapped. And she could get out, and she was sneaking out, but she was still sneaking out to a relatively safe environment. And if she was going anywhere, she was going with Samuel. And I liked that he was a little bit more worldly. Like, he's been around the block.
Yeah. Like, he knows Morgan, and the fact that he goes to all the brothels, he knows the bad people. He has a more honest view of the world, but he wants to protect her. He doesn't even want to tell her. He doesn't want to shatter her illusion, which I thought was nice. I would have. I'd be like, just for your sake, I need to educate you. But then I'd probably traumatize her. And again, that's why Samuel's the best.
That's why we love him.
I'm curious because, well, later in the book when she's realizing, I think it's when she's talking to, is it Margot, the sea witch? She implied that Jean-Baptiste is the reason that Luce's feet were kind of mangled. And talking about this now, I'm like, how would she not remember that? So because it never says what happened, but it kind of implies that because her feet were like fine when in like the flashback where she was a toddler and he like kidnaps her.
She was little. I don't think she remembers the kidnapping. I'm trying to remember how old she was. Was she like 2?
I think it said like 2 is what it said.
2.
Yeah.
So I don't think a 2-year-old would remember. Like, this is the kind of weird stuff writers think about, right? How early do you remember? So I don't know if she would have remembered, and she didn't see her mum. I think he picked her up and had her facing the other way. So she didn't see. And her feet for me, and I hope this came across now, her feet were more of a long-term issue because she shouldn't have been walking on them only on land for 18, 19 years. Yeah. Like, they're damaged because of the longevity of her time on land.
So I think it does, because that was actually one of my questions in the lightning round, which I guess I could just ask now, which was the problem of Luce's feet was because she never got a chance to be in her mermaid form or her sea maid form, or was she gonna always have that condition? Like, is that just how like mermaids look when they're on land? So, but I think you answered that question for me.
Yeah, I think a normal healthy mermaid, like a regular mermaid, would not have damaged feet because she would only she'd only change sparingly and always return to the sea, which is where she's really meant to be. And so, for me, when you first meet the sea crone, I think the first thing she says is, what have they done to you? And it's more about that, in trapping her, they've damaged her. And she always needed to have, there always had to be pain in the feet. That was one of the very first things I thought about, because such a big part of the Little Mermaid fairy tale is that every step she takes feels as though she's treading on knives. And that's more a condition of the evil sea witch's spell. And because I'd flipped that and sort of merged the fairy godmother character and the sea crone into Margot, there wasn't going to be that maliciousness that would cause her pain. So there had to be another reason that her feet hurt. And so that just ended up being, they didn't have names for those conditions that we know today, like the rare conditions that people have in their feet. So I was able to kind of slide a mysterious one in there that none of the doctors had known how to fix, because I felt that to be a good Little Mermaid retelling, she needed to have pain when she walked. And to me, I had a reader who read the book, and they, just to check all of the, just for like the ableism, just to make sure that it was all, that I'd done all of that okay. I was quite worried about that. So I had someone read the book for me who has a long-term, like a painful condition. And they said that the scene where Luce gets to dance at the ball without pain in her feet was just really beautiful for them, because that scene wasn't so much about Morgan or everyone looking at her, that traditional show-offy kind of Cinderella thing. It was about the joy of being able to dance, which is such a joyous and beautiful, I love dancing, such a beautiful thing to do without pain. And that, I was really pleased when they said that scene was really connected with them emotionally. And so then, that's kind of how I approached the feet. Yeah, I was so worried about doing it. I was so worried because I didn't want to do it wrong. I wanted to do it sensitively.
Yeah. Well, we could probably go on to the themes, especially the really clear theme, I think, was female empowerment, because it kind of, like, as you're talking, it kind of reminds me of like female foot binding in like old, like in China in the olden days. Like, it's the same idea, which is trapping women in this case, for their case, it was a mark of beauty to have small feet. But at the like byproduct is a trapped woman who is injured, and so kind of similarly, like Jean Baptiste, he trapped her for his own sake, but the consequence showed up on her body. And so like, yeah, Demi, do you have anything to say about female empowerment as a core theme?
Yeah, in the different types of media where I've seen mermaids, it's like mermaids are sort of portrayed as like this raw, free female power, because you can just swim and you can, I mean, it even addresses it in the book. Like you think of them as vain, like brushing their hair and like sunbathing on a rock, you know, and it's like you can just exist and just go wherever you want and befriend fish and sharks and like all these things. And then in this book, it starts out with her being controlled and then stepping into that power and that freedom. And I loved when she saves Samuel, the moment that she is like, he's, you know, coming into they're trying to do the ship binding.
Death by kilt or something.
Oh, keel hauling.
Yes.
Keel hauling.
Yeah, keel. Yeah. So when they're doing that and she embraces like being a mermaid, sea maid, and saves him, I feel like that was such a pivotal moment for me as a reader, because it was like leaning into that female power, and like who else could have done that? I mean, I guess that there were like, are they called seamen? What are the male?
That's an unfortunate thing. I didn't think about that.
Seamen.
Is that what you call them? I don't remember what it said. Or male. I don't know.
I don't know if I went down that road.
Well, because it says something about her like actual father, something about how the men can't go on shore, you know?
Yeah. Mother Aggie might have said it.
Yeah, I don't know if you call them we'll say sea gentlemen, I guess.
Sea gentlemen, there we go. There we go.
Now I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I thought that like I really liked that kind of just theme, because to me mermaids are just pure feminine power, and I love that she really becomes that. And then at the end in the epilogue, when she comes back and she's kind of just wild, and he's like, I don't even know if I should go to her. Like it might be my doom. Like maybe she's gonna kill me. And I was like, ooh, I love that she's like fully in it now. And like thinking about the body horror, she's like embraced it and like doesn't even look like she could be human anymore. I thought that was just such an amazing transformation from the beginning, like all the way to the end. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And then I also want to call out another theme, just to pile it all together, is the theme of like nature and stealing from nature. That I feel like that was something that really struck me, is like the fairies represent like our natural resources that we take and we pillage and we like until there's nothing left. And then there's nothing left, like all the fairies left.
Yeah. What was the first one again?
Female empowerment.
Female. Yeah, I think we already talked a little bit about that. I was very interested in doing that. The history, I looked into the history of mermaids and mermaid lore, and what was really fascinating is that the whole siren sort of mermaid thing began in ancient times, and originally the sirens were half bird, half women, and they were terrifying. The story of, is it Jason and the Argonauts or Odysseus?
I think it's in the Odyssey.
The Odyssey. Yeah, they have to plug the ears to stop themselves from being tempted and eaten by these horrific bird women. And then the women with the fish tails began to come. And then in medieval times, they became a symbol of feminine vanity and the very negative, very sexualized power of women. So there'd often be mermaids in churches, and they're there to remind you, oh, women are horrible. Women are evil. They're just looking at their mirror, that idea of vanity, like looking at themselves, and they're long, in those days women would put their hair up because if only whores would have their hair down. So that idea of the long flowing hair, the way that we see mermaids now as so alluring and magical and free, that's not how they were viewed in the Middle Ages. So I was really interested in flipping that, and I was so happy when the mirror actually has a purpose and so does their hair. They're not just there as vain, selfish, horrible creatures that don't care about anyone or anything. They actually are really powerful and they have purpose. I was really keen on flipping that on its head, as well as the stepmother, the stepsisters, that competition between the sisters. I wanted them to be more like, sisters can be amazing. So I wanted to lean into the complexity of that sister relationship. So that was very much part of the female empowerment. What was the second one?
And then the theme of environmental preservation.
So there's always After the Forest was very much like that as well. I love nature and being out in nature, and there's just nothing like being on the beach or in the forest or on a mountain and you can't hear anything except the birds and the waves. I just think it's something that's so precious and just seems to be getting taken away from us rapidly. So I do have a strong sense of clinging to that. And I like writing about these times in history, because back then forests were big and wolves would eat you, and we hadn't had industrialization, and we don't have the cities that they didn't have, cities that we have now. There was a lot more wildness in the world. I think that's probably why I'm attracted to writing about the early modern period, and I'm writing about the Middle Ages at the moment in my current work as well. So there's definitely an attraction there. But with this book as well, I think there was also, being Australian, a really strong sense of colonialism and having an Indigenous people, not unlike the Indigenous people of Australia, who were very connected to the land and were just pushed and pushed and pushed away from their places. And so I think in a way I was very much leaning into the idea of a settler culture and colonialism, particularly, America, same. We had, it's the same colonial thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That idea of colonialism, which just doesn't sit well. The more we learn about that, the more you realise what we were taught at school was completely whitewashed and really disturbing. So I was sort of, in a way, I guess, leaning into that colonial.
I didn't catch that, but I love that. I love that take.
Yeah. I didn't deliberately do it, but I think in a way that's what I was doing. Yeah.
I think I really liked the thinking about how the Stormstone was becoming weaker as they it's like the greed and the indulgence and kind of like the quest for power and everything that they were doing, because there's also mention of the slave ships and everything that it was kind of like horrific at that time period, and the idea that as humans continued in that path, they were actually pushing away the magic that was making them powerful, because in the greed, I love that theme, especially with Jean-Baptiste. It's it was really powerful thinking about, the metaphor for even what's happening in the world right now. If we keep pushing the magic away, eventually we don't have it. And what are we
don't have it?
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And I guess another little Easter egg for me was that I don't know if you've seen All the Light We Cannot See. So that book is set in St. Malo, and that's all about how St. Malo was bombed, completely. We went to St. Malo to research. I spent 5 days there wandering around and it was just amazing. But most of St. Malo has actually been rebuilt in the 50s and 60s, because it got absolutely bombed by the Allies, completely destroyed. And I like to think that there's no magic left by the time World War II rolls around, and there's nothing left to protect St. Malo. When I was writing all of that, I was thinking, if anyone knows their history and if anybody read All the Light They Cannot See, they're going to, when Margot is saying that it's going to burn, it's going to go, it's going to be,
I didn't catch that, and I love that. That is such a great Easter egg.
Yeah. So, that's what's happened. So I was thinking very much about that. Yeah.
Well, Demi, do you think we should skip to the lightning round, since we have a couple of those types of questions, of those types of Easter egg questions?
Yeah, maybe we just quickly say our favorites and then we go to the lightning round.
Okay.
Just so we can share it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so my favorite scene, which I already said, was when she turned into a mermaid. I think that was so powerful to me, and that was where the book just I could not put it down. And then for my favorite character, I would actually have to say I think Samuel was my favorite character. And it's funny because I think he's in one of the earlier scenes, and I didn't even think that he would play a role in the book. And then, of course, he's like my favorite character, which is, it was so great. And then my favorite line. So on page 402 because I read the actual printed copy. So that final, I wrote the final moment with her fake father, but with Jean-Baptiste. So is the line when she says, because if you'd loved me, basically, you would have set me free. And I love how you took that, which is a common expression. Like if you love someone, set them free. And if they come back, I love how that became a theme of the book. And it was so powerful. And it just really, everything about it embodied that expression and that line when she says it. So that was probably the one that I actually wrote that in the story graph. I was like, this is the one that really landed for me. So just wanted to share those.
Yeah. And also like Maya Angelou has this whole interview on YouTube about what love is. And one of the things she repeats is love liberates. It does not imprison, it liberates. And so I was thinking of that too in that scene, and thinking of her and like, yeah, it's true. So for me, my favorite scene, I think, was Charlotte. Like I said, it totally reoriented everything for me when she decided to run away with Gabriel. It like completely destroyed every preconceived notion of where I thought this book was going to go. And I felt like, I was like, oh my God, Charlotte's a hero. Like, because I felt bad for Charlotte because she was the girl in the middle. Like she had obvious middle child syndrome, and so, and instead of her being bitter, and she was on that path towards bitterness. Like, I think it was super clear. It's just, I mean, she's like getting punched on both sides from each parent. And then instead she gets up and she makes her own way. Like she shuns what was put on her. And then that gives Luce the strength to do the same thing. And so I just love that. I also really love the mother. I was waiting the whole time, like for clues to see that the mom never really loved her, and it never showed up. The mom always loved her, and like she even felt it too. And I was like, you know what? That woman is an A+ woman. She took that daughter in as her own, and that is not an easy thing to do. And she, like, for her, it's all three daughters are the same. And that's why some of my lightning questions regard her. So we'll jump to that. And then also, I just want to say, like, other than Jean-Baptiste, who fooled me, I think I'm a pretty good judge of character because I didn't like Morgan from page 1 because I didn't like that he kissed her. Like, without doing it, like he just grabbed her and kissed her. Who does that? If I save you, that doesn't mean you could go ahead and kiss me. So I didn't like him. And then I was so scared. I was actually really tense in the scene where he took her to his father's study because I was like, oh no, they're alone. Like I did not trust him. And I actually liked Samuel from day one, specifically because of one line. Samuel and Bones, honestly, R.I.P. to Bones. May he rest in peace. But where she said she never felt even an inkling of fear while she was with them. Like green flags all around. So I was like, I was always team Sam. I was always like, oh, Morgan, Schmorgan. And then also, I'm always team poor people too. Like I'm always the team, like go for the poor farmer, go for the so that's just
the smuggler.
The team smuggler. Yeah, it's just how. So those were my favorites.
I love that. So great.
Yeah. So we just had to share that because I think it's fun. So for the lightning round, we have a few questions. So you can answer them really fast if you want to, make it like lightning, or obviously you don't have to do that if you want to think about it for a minute.
I'll try and be quick.
So the first question is, if given the choice, would you be a mermaid?
Yes. I reckon. I'm curious about what it would be like. And I deliberately left that part of it mysterious. You probably noticed, like you don't see what happens when she disappears in that time. And I felt like I wanted to keep that part of it just for the mermaids. Of course, I'd love to be able to, to explore like that. And I live right near the beach, so I swim a lot. So I probably would, I probably enjoy it a lot. I'm not sure about the food though, the raw seafood.
Yeah. Like pick a sea urchin, break it up and slurp it. Yeah, maybe not.
You got to think about the logistics.
Yeah.
So yes, in theory, but I probably would get really sick of eating seaweed and oysters.
Fair. That actually, I have a second question then for you. Speaking of the mystery, would you ever write a novella of Luce's adventure in Feyland or Mermaid Land and meeting her father?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I was dying for her to meet her father. I just wanted to say that. I was like, oh, there's still pages. We're going to see him and like see them reunited, which I'm glad that we didn't. The ending was perfect. But anyway, I'm glad you asked this question. Sorry.
Yeah, I writing about, there's a lot of logistical things about that would be difficult. Like, how do mermaids talk? Like, how do merpeople talk? How do they navigate? How I made them a little bit like a dolphin. So a lot of the mermaid stuff, I went down the idea of I'll base them on a dolphin. So I figure humans, if we were mermaids, would probably be around dolphin size. And I gave Luce that the prickle, the sixth sense, because dolphins have that electromagnetic sixth sense. They can, and the storm, all of that stuff was all very much the science of dolphins. And I don't know how, I just think it would be really hard to write a book about that part of her story and make it feel, I don't know, real. I guess it's kind of a different genre. It's almost, it's moved. I don't know. But I did a short story called Before the Forest, which is the origin story of the gingerbread witch in Hansel and Gretel after I wrote After the Forest. And I really loved that. So I am thinking that maybe next year I should think about doing an Upon a Starlit Tide short story. I've been asked before by people, oh, would you ever do another, or even like What Happened Next, that kind of thing. So, yeah, maybe.
We will keep a lookout.
Yeah, we'll take that. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into one of the questions that I had, which is, do you have a place in your mind or even just your heart where Luce and Samuel were able to actually go and build that life together where there were other fae and humans?
Yes, definitely. She found the place. There's definitely an island, like islands there. I was thinking that it would have to be somewhere that had still not been discovered by people, men in their ships. So I guess if I really wanted to pin it down, I would do a bit of research and see which areas, maybe in the Pacific Ocean or somewhere that had been not discovered and settled yet. And then potentially that would be a place where a lot of the fae have retreated to and where he could come and they could have cute little kids that turn into merpeople.
Well, I heard that there's like 1,000 islands in the Philippines. So I'm in my head, I'm already, they're living in the Philippines, living it up.
Yeah, and there's mermaid mythology from literally everywhere. There's lots of, there's mermaid folklore from here, from the Indigenous people in Australia. So there's no reason why they were not somewhere in the Pacific, which I assume would be the most remote place in the 18th century, and also warm. They could go north, but I don't know if I'd want to be an icy mermaid. So yes, I do. I do think they would have had a place.
Do you think Luce, in your headcanon, ever got to reunite with the women in her family, her sisters and her mother?
I think so. She gave him the letter, gave Charlotte that letter, which would have explained everything. But yes, I think that at some point she would have gone back and just, wandered into the Maluniere one day when they were in the drawing room in the salon.
Like, hey guys, long time no see. Yeah. I'm a mermaid now.
Yeah. I reckon. I don't know how long, but maybe. I think so, for sure. Yeah. She did love her sisters and her mum.
So I had what historical time period would have been the peak moment for mermaids as they were written in your book?
I think the Middle Ages. I think it would have been before the ships started, before the Age of Sail. It was the ships that really did the damage, I think. Probably the centuries preceding that. There was a lot of interest in them in the Middle Ages, so they must have been fairly obvious, and there were sightings. People believed that they were seeing them all the way. There's like legitimate we saw a mermaid, like scientists were out there looking for them. Everyone believed in them. It was crazy. So I would think, probably the Middle Ages, maybe the 14th century or even earlier, and then it would have got harder and harder as the technology got better, population increased, they got pushed. Yeah.
I love that.
I really think about this. I know I'm a bit weird.
Yeah, I love how, like, because when we're like, well, you just write a book where she meets her dad, and you're like, well, I don't know how they would speak. And I'm like, I didn't even think. I love how, like, so detailed you are with all of this. It's so fun.
Yeah. It adds to the believability, like you said. Like, as the reader, I'm able to suspend belief because it's so believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has to make sense. It has to make sense scientifically and historically. And that's really hard because mermaids don't make sense scientifically. Like, they're like one part is cold-blooded and then the top half is warm-blooded. So I didn't give her gills. That's why she breathes air, like more like a dolphin. Like, I was trying to make it feel, and gills aren't very pretty. Like, I wouldn't want
like
gills.
Speak of body horror, I've always thought gills were really freaky.
They are. Yeah, they're gross. So they're like a mammal on top. So she that's why she breathes air. And I imagine that they would be able to hold their breath for about as long as a dolphin, which is about half an hour. So yeah, I thought about all this stuff. I'm so weird.
Well, one thing that I thought when I was reading it, so when she becomes the mermaid, because it's like her and Samuel I think, did they have the moment at the shipyard before that where they had kissed? I can't remember the exact chronology of the book, but she like turned into it and was like, oh my God, like their romance is like kicking off, and now she has a tail. Like, this means like they're never gonna have sex because she's like a fish. And I was like, I don't know how this works. Like, no, the Disney movie did not explain how that works between the reproductive system.
No, but like, I mean, I love how he knows exactly what to do at that moment. Just take that silk off, and we're in business.
I know. I was like, I didn't even think about, because I was like, what are they're like together, and I was like, what is happening? I was like, okay, good. All right. I'm glad that this works out. But then I felt bad for the mermen, because they can just never be with like humans, because
dude, that sucks. So women have twice the dating pool in the mermaid world. So
yeah. I mean,
that's interesting.
We're reversing
female empowerment.
Yeah. Like, we're just getting rid of the patriarchy here. We're making it more, just rewriting it how it should be. But like the sex scene I had to think about all of that as well. But I'm really happy with how that happened, because they were half in and half out of the water, and she was changing in that moment. So I felt like that was quite, and it was a big moment for them. So I was really pleased with how all of that came about, the middle of the book. Like, I really love that, from when she falls in the water and turns until when they get back and it all goes to shit, and they get taken to the Lucerne by Morgan's men. That part there is just that was so much fun to write. I love that I love that sequence. Yeah.
In that scene, I felt like such a deep regret that she saved Morgan. A devastating regret. Like, why, Lucerne? Why?
Like on the boat.
Yeah, like when he caught her and he killed Bones, and he was about to sexually assault her, and like trying to kill Samuel. I was like, why'd you have to save him? Like, it could have worked out so well if he wasn't in the picture.
But I knew that I think I did in earlier drafts have her drown him, and then she went like full evil mermaid, and I didn't.
Oh my gosh, I kind of would have loved to read that too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, she went nuts. She was really vengeful. The sisters weren't as nice. She was really vengeful. Like, my first draft was me just playing around, and my agent read it first, and she was like, okay, so I think we might need to just ease back a little bit on this. I went nuts, like full revenge. Like, it was a revenge. Like, so she did drown him. She did terror. Like, she had revenge on her sisters. She was a nutcase.
It would have been a very different genre. That was
because I love the existing book, but then that one also sounds good. So basically, we'll just read whatever you write.
For whatever mood we're in.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would have been more like a dark fantasy, or maybe even horror.
So it took
a little while. to sort of write into that and figure out what I wanted to do. But I'm so happy with how it turned out. I mean, and I wouldn't change her. I think she's lovely. Yeah, but I wanted to lean into that pool because some of the mermaid folklore will tell you that they're benevolent and they help sailors and they're kind, and then others they will like drag you down and you know, suck the flesh from your bones, like they eat people. So I love that sort of dichotomy in the mermaids, and so I was always sort of having her have the capacity to do that if she wanted to. And then choosing not to. And I kind of lent into that, as you say, at the end when Samuel is a little bit scared of her. She's definitely other, you know,
Yeah, it's so good. So, okay, we have two more, I guess, two more lightning round questions. So I wanted to get your thoughts on which, if you had to pick one of the like magical beings from this book, which one would you most want to encounter in real life?
Not the Corrigans, because they would throw rocks at me. Not those horrible little things in the pool. You know, the ones that bit her and they were a bit weird. Not the washing women and the dead sailors. Maybe the little Lutine. She was very cute. And I probably would really like to see the sea crone in her little witch boat. That'd be pretty cool.
She was pretty cool. I liked her.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, she was great. I was really pleased with how she turned out. And she has the tusks like the walrus, and that's all part of the Britain folklore too.
Last question, and we ask this of all of our authors. How do you find magic in your daily life?
Oh, that's the trick, isn't it? I would say in music. I listen to a lot of music, a lot of film scores. So I write to music. So I'd say through music and through nature, through going out into the bush, into the forest, and into the sea. And in reading, I guess picking up a book about folklore or reading about the history of something, that always makes me feel like there's possibilities and magic. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. And I think that's why we read too, because life can be so not magic, so unmagic and so, depressing and repetitive and all of those things. So yeah, I'm always looking for it too. And even just reading fiction, that's another way, like reading some really good fiction, fantasy, and being exported into somewhere amazing with moments like that you've described, where your heart's in your throat or you're just moved by a book. I'm a big reader too. So yeah, I would say those things.
Great. That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. This was just such a fun conversation. I could talk to you for like 3 hours. As you know. But the final question we want to ask is just what's next? Are you working on anything new? And do you have any work coming out that readers can be excited about?
Yeah, I'm working on my third book at the moment. It's, as I said before, it's set in the Middle Ages, which is a bit of a different era, quite different to the 18th century. And it's a very different landscape, very completely different to what I did in Upon A Starlit Tide. And I'm in the middle of sort of banging out my second draft for that at the moment. So it'll be a little while away, but it's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Is it another fairy tale?
It is. Yeah. This one. Yeah. This one is another couple of fairy tales. They're Scandinavian, so it's Norse. We're going into Viking territory. So
interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Actually, it's a little bit different to the others. I've almost done a little bit of an alternate history and brought some Viking culture into Middle Ages Norway, and lots of magic, and it's based on the Snow Queen. I will say that. So it's the Snow Queen fairy tale. And very cold. So very cold, very, very northern, very Norse. It's been fun to pull all that together, to look at the Norse sagas and sort of and delve into that culture, which I didn't really know that much about, really. So it's been fun. But that won't be coming out next year. That'll be probably more like early 2027, I think.
It.
But none of that's nailed down yet. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to get our special editions of Upon a Starlit Tide and reread that while we wait.
Yeah. And maybe I will look at doing a short story or something fun next year as well. But, I'll let you know. I will let you know.
All right. Well, Kell Woods, thank you so much for joining and talking about this book with us, and also for writing it, because this was it was so lovely and so good. And this was such a fun conversation. And thank you for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was lovely. And as you say, I could keep chatting too. You're both delightful. And I hope all goes well with your book club. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm excited to read your other book.
Thank you. Yeah. I hope you like it. I was worried. I hope you like it.
I don't think you have to be worried.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the episode, follow More Magic on your favorite podcast platform to be notified of future episodes. And if you have the time, please rate and review to help us spread more magic to other fantasy readers. As always, if there's a book you want us to discuss, you can let us know at moremagicpodcast.com. In the meantime, we hope your current read becomes your next favorite, and we're sending you more magic.